Hey guys, Peter Scott here, and I'm here with my good friend, Brad Borkhuis. Brad has been a friend of mine for several years. He's been a coaching client of mine, and he is an amazing coach and consultant to entrepreneurs and business owners. And the reason I invited him to do this interview with me today is because in addition to the consulting that he does, in addition to the speaking that he does around the country, he also is launching, and actually at the time of this recording has launched his brand new book called The Eye of the Storm. Let me say that again. The Eye of the Storm, Leading from Peace When All Hell is Breaking Loose. Now, I don't know about you, but man, I am so happy that you wrote this book because this is something that I could read. So Brad, welcome to the call, brother. The way I want to introduce you is I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background and really why you decided to write this book for business owners.
Yeah, and I think Eye of the Storm, I wrote the book for just the purpose that it so much encompassed what my experiences have been. And I think it speaks to, as I coach and I consult with entrepreneurs, now there's so many of the same stories out there. And for people to understand that the fact that you're in the middle of a storm and and the shit's flying around all over the place, that's okay. We all are kind of in that storm, and it's not about getting out of the storm or getting to that safe haven. It's about really being able to command yourself and be from a place of peace while going through the middle of the storm, because that'll always go on. And so for my story was, I came back, I was a market research analyst with Microsoft and came back to North Dakota to take over a family business. And, I get in there in November and our December financials are a $700,000 loss. We had just lost probably 30 major customers. It was a very struggling position there. And, at first when I was asked to come back, I was like, hey, it's gonna be a challenge. And I'm like, all right, I can step into this. And I step in and it is much bigger than I thought. And all of those things, I think entrepreneurs, you guys can all relate to this, right? Your breath is short, almost that panic attack feeling. The water's filled, like every day the water's here, it's lapping up. You're trying to, can I even keep my head above water? And from going through that process, and even where I started initially is like, I got to find an answer. And I got to do this, and I got to get this, and really realizing as I matured through this process, unfortunately, I had to mature very, very quickly. Where I started understanding the we part of it and how to really bring people in and engage them into the process of what the vision I had was, really was just a foundational part of this. And just all those fears that are they're so true and real that I'm able to help people say, yeah, these are where these fears are at. And here's how to navigate around them, or here's how to put them in a proper place, or here's to bring in that help. They say a lot of times we've got the capes, right? As business owners, we got this cape. I'll do it. I'll do this. I'll do this. And really we're killing ourselves. We're hurting our own success by doing that. So yeah, so this was kind of an opportunity for me to help, reach out and help more people.
Well, I love it. I can imagine, now in the position that you are in business, you wish that this book was written, every time when you were going through this storm, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I look at that too, that I look at the process that I was in, and, there's part of me that says, are you glad or are you not that you were a CEO at the age of 24? I said, it was horrible. I'm glad I didn't. And there's a saying that says, thank God I was ignorant enough to not know how tough it would be to get where I am, because else I'd never do it, right? And so if you ask, would I want to do it again? Absolutely not. But I learned so much, and I was forced into this very accelerated learning process of having to figure stuff out very fast on the fly, much like a lot of entrepreneurs are. It's saying, these are major decisions that have to be made now. And if I completely mess up the decision, I could completely lose everything. And so that stress is there and that challenge is there. And I definitely, resonate with that. Yeah. So it would be nice to have this little manual to go by before. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't help but wonder, obviously being in a position when you're taking over the keys of a company and it's at a $700,000 loss. First of all, I don't know if I have the stomach to handle that. Like, there were months I remember when I started where like break even, when I was flirting with that break even line, I was stressed out. I can't imagine being in the hole that much. I'm curious, what were the results that you created for the company? So when you took it over in that place, where did you take that company to? Because I really want the viewer to understand the significant impact that your experience and your knowledge has, not only in your own company that you turned around, but also in theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, through really leveraging, understanding what is going to motivate the employees, and that's where this whole thing's based on values, we were able to get some just phenomenal results. The results we ended up growing the business from about 18 million to 50 million in just about 6 years. We were able to take a bottom line profit of a $700,000 loss and build it up to over $500,000 profit, annual profits. And so, we were able, and not only that, along this path, with making more bottom line profits, we were able to shift the entire living wage and the living structure of the entire employee base. We were able to provide better wages and better salaries and just better working conditions and newer, tools and trinkets that everybody needs to do their job well. And so it really changed that. And that's, the bottom line hard number side. But on the soft side, we actually started towards, before I sold the business, we actually started calculating a happiness quotient. We actually started going through it. And it's funny, people always say, well, that's so arbitrary. And who cares? If I ask you if you're happy or not, and it's on a rank of 1 to 5, you're still going to give me a number. And we still just wanted to say, how can we move that score up? And so it's really the way in which people saw each other. It became much more team-centric. It became much more about a shared experience versus I versus you versus my position versus, and when you have a lot of departments, purchasing, sales, transportation, warehouse, all kind of sometimes working together and sometimes having, opposite goals, how do you get them to work for a single vision for the company? So yeah, it really brought the whole company together and brought it as a very productive unit.
I love it. And, for the person watching this, number one, you probably already want to go pick up a copy of this book because it just came out. So to do that, definitely search for Eye of the Storm on Amazon. You can also, I believe, Brad, pick it up at leadingfrompeace.com. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep. There's a direct link down that site too. Yep.
Okay, good. So for you watching this, definitely go get that now, because at the time of this, I believe it's in launch week, which means it's going to be so affordable for you to get up a copy of this book. Now, Brad, I want to go into some of the content of this, because I love what you just alluded to around your happiness quotient. And I wish more entrepreneurs thought this way for their employees. Because think about it, their employees are the lifeblood of their business, right? How many business owners do you know where their employees are completely dissatisfied with the work environment? And that obviously limits the productivity, that obviously limits, attracting additional A+ talent. So let's roll up our sleeves and dive into some of the big principles of the book. One in particular is a philosophy that you talk about called do right, be right, and pay it forward. Yeah. Can you elaborate on that and share with the listener what that means?
Absolutely. So that actually is my personal philosophy. And, I built that over the years of, when we define our personal philosophies, a lot of times they start as like multiple page, elaborate, dribblings and sometimes, wanderings. But what it really came down to is when I started thinking about, how I wanted to really act and how I wanted to conduct and how I wanted to make impact in the world, it really came down to just do the right thing. And there's times through our lives that will change. Doing the right thing right now might be different than what the right thing is later and what the right thing is now. But if we continue to focus on trying to do the right thing as best as we can, we're going to be extremely successful. And so that really helped me when I was working with making very, very tough decisions, boiling it down to, to what is the right thing, and allowing your internal, your subconscious, to really kind of your gut feeling to kind of take over a little bit and say, hey, what is right? The other part then, the second part is be right. And be right was something where I realized, we just talked about where be right now is maybe different than be right in the future. Well, what this does is it says sometimes we keep being right, and what we realize is that either we've gotten a little off course, or maybe that which surrounds us is a little off course. And so be right is really about having the strength to look around and say, whoa, I took a wrong path, or I need to get back, and having the courage to then do the right thing at that point and change direction. And that can be very, very difficult. But it reminded me that you're not perfect. And just because you did the right thing and you believe you did the right thing doesn't mean you might not have been wrong and have to go back and correct that. And then the third one is my favorite, and it's pay it forward. And I absolutely, this one, it gives all the meat to my life. This is the one that, that really just gives everything, is that I love living on a principle of giving without any intention of return, without, just doing the right thing and just giving to people, whether it's, not because, they might give you something back or it might have a leverage in the long term, but just doing the right thing and creating that karma or that positive energy or that goes with it. And I can't explain it to people, but as you continue to do the right things, as you continue to pay it forward, you get paid back. It's not a quid pro quo. It's not a this for that. It's not a direct line, but it's as you put that just positive, I will do anything to help move this forward energy, it comes back to you. And it's I can't tie any of the things that have come great right back to the single things, but it's been so many rewards in my life. So
Brad, I could not agree with you more, man, because this year for me in my business has been my most successful year. And I've also given more than I've ever given in terms of my time, my attention, my focus. I've literally gone from being this go-getter to being this go-giver. And it's something that I'm still working on. And the intention wasn't reciprocity. It wasn't, I'm going to give so that I can get. It's literally unattached, completely one way of I'm going to give 100% to this person. And I love that you're doing that, because the do right, the be right, the pay it forward, it's a philosophy of being the example. Like when you're the business owner and the entrepreneur, you are the example that your employees are going to follow. Exactly. So if an employee sees and views you as out of integrity, then it gives them permission to be out of integrity.
Well, and it's one of the things, when I do, part of what I do, I also do some corporate training where I'll actually go into a business and teach them how to run the business by their values, communicate by their values, and live by it. And in the contracts, I don't have any wording about times and, riders and all this stuff. The only thing I have in my contract is one line that says, you, the owner, leader, or driver, will be leading by example as well as instituting this. And that's the part that is, if you don't lead by example, how can you expect to set a tone of giving and doing the right thing when you aren't doing it yourself? Yep, absolutely.
I love it. Well, you talk a lot about values. A big part of this book is leading from values. And one of the things that you said that I've never really heard of before, which was your values is the foundation to actually finding peace within that storm. So can you elaborate on that? Can you explain that a little bit?
Absolutely. So working in my coaching and in my consulting with my entrepreneurs that I work with, a fundamental thing that we start with is really rock defining what are your values. And when you truly understand your values and appreciate it, and you answer them really unabashedly, if massive profits is one of your values, then say it. If donating 50 hours of community service is one of your values, then state it and live it. And the more that you live that, the more that you create a peace in the consistency. So, for example, let's say this: if there's a big thing right now with Colin Kaepernick, whether it's right or wrong or right, but if you're living your values, while all the noise that goes on around you, one side or the other, you're going to be at peace. If you're saying, "Hey, I'm very patriotic and I'm going to stand for this," I'm going to be very peace at doing that. If I say that I'm for the cause that he is trying to stand for, and he stands for, he's going to be at peace at that. Doesn't mean anybody else around him is, but the peace will be with the single person, one side or the other. And so the values really create the ability for somebody to be very clear about what it is they want out of a situation. And that's typically where this peace or the storm comes from, is us not being able to know where it is. And when the storm is external of us, there's a lot of stuff we can't control there. But when it's internal, that's when you're going to have a lot of problems. And that's where the lack of peace comes from. So when you know your values and you know what it is, while you're getting up every day. I teach a workshop called Expecting Greatness. And in Expecting Greatness, I kind of explain it this way. If you woke up every day and lived your values to the best ability you could every single day, that which is most important, you've defined as most important things in your life, if you live that every day, would you not rest your head saying that was a great day? And that's the peace that comes over. And could you imagine every single day of the rest of your life is great? And that's the something to me. And it's one thing I've been blessed about. Sure, I have days where I struggle and I get out of alignment, but I work myself back to it. And that's kind of even the thing in this book. Peace is not this one point you get to. It's the constant process of knowing what peace is so that you can continue to find your way back to it. In the middle of a storm or in the calm, it doesn't matter.
So. It's not a destination at the end. It's literally there's stops along the journey where you can be at peace, and it's staying connected to that as often as possible.
Exactly that. Exactly. And that's the thing. Through much of the times when we look external for that peace, and we are always going to be moving and shifting with wherever that thing moves externally from us. But if it's internal and we know what that is, no matter what the external movements are, they may put pressure on us. They may influence us in a certain way, but we still know where our peace is at. And that's really the challenge. And as leaders and entrepreneurs, it's tough, and you get so many pressures, whether it's, we talked earlier about getting the right people. Mm-hmm. People are the biggest asset and the biggest challenge of any business, getting the right people on board and getting the wrong people off the wagon. Right. And so, we have a process that we call teaching, hire slow, fire fast. And in that process, it's extremely important for them to understand, what are your values? And if you have your values and you understand the values you want for yourself and for the company, and then you hire people that surround those values, right? The talent that you're looking for will be attracted to those values that you need. You can teach a lot of skills. You can't teach values the same way. And so as you start doing it, that's where the values all of a sudden tie and they dovetail into building just an absolutely rock solid organization as well.
I love it, because I think about how many times I'm trying to please others in my life where, when I detach from that and just ensure that I am in alignment with my values, I'm in alignment with things that are most important to me, I can rest my head at night and sleep. And when I'm not, even if I'm pleasing others, but I'm out of alignment and kind of neglecting my own values, then I'm stressed out, I'm losing sleep, I'm not performing in the most optimal way. So I can completely relate to this.
Well, and actually it's one that comes right back to something you said, right? Is one of the most amazing things you can do is allow somebody else the space to have their own experience.
Yep.
And part of it is saying, giving yourself the space to have your own experience and say, what, this person disagrees with me and I'm feeling this discomfort, but then to be okay saying it's just different. So there's respect for yourself that says, I'm allowed to have my experience, and respect for them, allowing them to have theirs.
Yep.
And so in that balance, you're allowed to both be, you're both able to come to a conversation where you may disagree, but you can still respect each other.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, because you talk about conflict resolution in this book, and this is a huge thing. And as a I call myself a recovering people pleaser. So conflict is something that I used to avoid. How I know you connect values to a way of resolving conflict. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Okay. So one of the biggest challenges that we have is when we find ourselves in peace. So for example, if one of my values is a healthy life, I want to, for me, it's funny, people laugh, but I actually am going to live to 104 and a half. For the last couple of years, I determined that number. I don't know where it came from, but it did one time. And anytime somebody asks me the question, I'm 104 and a half. Yes. And for me to be able to do that, I have to live at a certain level of healthiness to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And so if my value, if one of my big values is health, which it is, and I'm eating poorly or I'm not working out, then I am creating a massive amount of conflict in it, right? Because my actions are not in congruence with what my values are stated to be. Yes. And so that's a conflict that we have. And so for us to find true peace, we really got to go back to our values and say, okay, where am I in conflict with that? And then looking externally and saying, okay, which people come into conflict with my values as well? Or actions externally come into conflict with my values. And so really understanding what that is so that you can either remedy it or the stuff that is incongruent to do more of it.
I love it. Okay, so that's more of an inner conflict. And again, by us addressing the inner conflicts, right, by aligning with our own values and making sure we're congruent, then we're able to stand as the example and connect more if there's conflicts outside of us, which as an entrepreneur, there's always going to be. Right? Absolutely, the storm doesn't go away. That's what I want the viewer to take away is like to wait for the storm to pass is going to leave you waiting your entire life. Yep. That's why I love the title of this book, Eye of the Storm, is because when you can stand grounded and centered and purposeful and present with all the shit going on around you, that's a leader. That's an effective leader.
Absolutely. And that's why it almost comes up, like I always say this, it's very simple. It's just not easy. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing. And that's why, with the book, I put it out there, with my coaching and my consulting I do with my clients, with the workshops that I do, really is bringing it in to get people that it's giving them the structure to then say, okay, here's the shovel. And now you just got to go dig, you know?
Yep. And one of the things that you talk a lot about, and I know this just because we have our calls every single week, is gratitude. Gratitude's a huge part of your life, and it helps you tremendously as a business owner. So can you talk about that attitude of gratitude for people who are reading this book?
Absolutely. The attitude of gratitude is just, it really, I started it originally, I did it functionally, saying, okay, if I start my day happy, right, it's going to be a better start to the day. But what I found was there's such a more fundamental positioning to it. As you are grateful for the things that you have in the day, you start yourself in a more robust position to address, let's say, the crap that's going to hit us all in a day, right? I mean, everybody's got their fan and it's full of excrement, right? I mean, we've all been there. And so this really gives you that ability to look at that and say, okay, I've got all these things, and then this happens. If I start low and like the day's horrible and it sucks, and then also something bad happens, just another thing, right? It piles on. But when you start with the grateful, you become a more resilient, more robust person, a more happy person, because you've got that perspective. And it really is just extremely powerful. And ironically, what happens is as you do this, and I've been doing mine for a little over 3 years now. And I put them on, I have a little phone app that I type them in every day. And what I found was over about a year and a half into it, I started seeing challenges as gratefuls. At first you always say, be grateful because whatever makes you kill you makes you tougher, right? Yep. I really started appreciating that, and I started looking at the challenges in my days, and I started looking at those points where I was uncomfortable, and I would say it helps me become more comfortable. It helps me become more resilient. The times where I would feel shame or embarrassment around things, and I was able to address myself. It gave me a point to really practice my craft and really help my own self work out, and to walk my own walk. And so it was really interesting how you do that. Yeah.
I love it, because you have to be in a place of gratitude in order to look at the positive lessons that come out of negative experiences.
Yeah.
Right. Most people, and I'm generalizing, but most people, have an argument with a family member or something happens financially, and they dwell on all the negative things that are going on instead of really looking at it with a genuine curiosity of what's the lesson that I've learned from this.
Yep.
And you've got to be grateful, just basically grateful in order to do that. And that for you, Brad, has become a habit. You say you do that every single day, and you and I know the power of habits, but I want to share with the viewer right now, what are some of those habits that you do? What are how do habits align with and contribute to becoming the eye of the storm?
Yeah. It's so one of the things I teach my clients as well as myself is my habits come from my values. And so when I start going through my values, it's saying, okay, here are my values and what are the habits that are going to support them. So for example, one of my values is Wednesday. My Wednesday value is wisdom. And for wisdom, I take time to listen, right? Unfortunately, we always think we're digging, but it's just to sit back and listen. And so sometimes I'll do a couple things, like I'll have the habit of asking people controversial things that they disagree with me, just to listen and educate myself, to believe in the fact that I don't know everything, right? To listen to books, to read books, and just to open up my senses to say, today I don't know everything, I'm going to absorb. And that's an important one for me, is to really be able to just be comfortable with that. For example, when I look at my health one, I work out, I've got my CrossFit workouts twice a week. I run a couple days a week. I bike. I've got to work out every day. The other thing is, once a quarter, I have a habit of picking a new challenge. So I climb Mount Kilimanjaro, right? I did a triathlon. I did all these things that a big guy, I used to be a 315-pound offensive lineman. They're not supposed to be able to do, right?
No.
By changing that and really getting in a habit of dedicating myself to the new challenge, it really completely changed my life. It was phenomenal.
I love it. So the things that you're doing every single day is building not only in alignment with the values, but building your presence, your stability, your connection to being that eye of the storm. Because all those things, like we said, all the things that are going on around you, they don't go away, right? It's your ability to handle the adversity that comes at you in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I want to talk about a concept that you call managing up. Okay. And let's talk a little bit about employee management and things like that. We've got managing up is one thing. I also want to talk about, the struggle that entrepreneurs have with employees, because I think that's one of the biggest takeaways people can have from this book. So let's start with managing up, and then talk about the dynamic of working as an entrepreneur and business owner with your employees.
Yeah, you bet. So managing up is a cool concept. I actually took, I was a high school football coach. And one of the things I found there, as well as is that as you're communicating to people, and if you tell people, the 7 things they did wrong, and the one thing that you'd really love to see them do, they're going to remember the one thing you'd really love to see them do, right? And so what I found is that unfortunately a lot of time in the correcting activities we have, that doesn't have a path or a guidance to it. But if I said, that's the vision I want you to see, that's where I want you to be, it has an amazing value in that setup, that it can actually create a lot more engagement, right? Because they're engaging in what that ultimate outlook is. And so in managing up, we really focus on telling them what we want them to do, what the vision is, how they're part of the larger picture, versus saying, you did this wrong, you need to fix this. Yes, in our communications, for example, if somebody is showing up late, we don't say, quit being late, and so that. We say, hey, one of our values as a company might be promptness. And to do that, we have to be on time, and to serve our clients and serve that purpose. Remember that vision we had? To be able to do that, we have to be here on time. Can you commit to me? Can we be here on time? Now they're committing forward to something versus not being late.
I love that. Okay, so instead of it being like, making them wrong, you're saying, let's reconnect to the vision and to the purpose of this, and then they're connected to something that's bigger than themselves, because they don't want to let you down. They don't want to let the other team down, right? Their other coworkers or teammates or whatever that is. So when they see that as this is the collective vision of our company or of our team, they're going to be more bought in.
Absolutely. And so that's kind of really cool. And really, also in that one, there's another theory I talk about, and it's something I called WIFM.
Yes.
And WIFM stands for it's what's in it for me. WIIFM. What's in it for me. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first took over business, and this is kind of directing right to your question about the entrepreneurs dealing, with the employees and how they have to deal. When an entrepreneur or any kind of leader, business leader jumps in, they're jumping in whole hog, right? I mean, they are in it they're up at, up early, home late, sacrificing an absolute ton. And, I remember that the point when I came back to that business and we were taking I was at the point where I felt I was bleeding from my eyes. I mean, you were just trying to analyze, you're up all the time. And I remember one time somebody came in and we were talking about, I need them to do this, this, and this, and asking to extend a little more and kind of, well, what's in it for me? And I remember at first I was like, oh, you gotta be, the smoke started coming out of my ears, and I'm saying, how dare you? I'm here earlier than you are and later than you are. And then you start going, wait a second, it's not about me. And I started reanalyzing that question. And I go back to my own strategies, my own philosophies, right? We want to have a vision for everybody, what their long-term, position is with the company, with the family, right? Well, then why don't we paint that for them? And so when somebody comes in and says, like they said, a lot of times now with the X generation, or, they're saying the entitlement issue. And part of it, I think we can manage that differently. When they come and ask about that, we can really say, if somebody says, well, when's my next opportunity for a raise? That's an awesome question, because it means that they're looking forward, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but the thing is this, if they have the right to ask us when the next raise is, we have the right to define what it takes to get that raise. Now, they may not love the answer, right? But we should be thinking about that vision of how we're going to grow our company with them as well. And so, for example, if I'm a small company, our goal might be, you might get your next raise when we hit $25,000 in sales in a month, or $25,000 sales in 6 months. Mm-hmm. It might be when we hit the $1 million mark. It might be when this person generates a certain amount of sales, or a certain amount of widgets, or creates a certain amount of value to the business. So they can actually tie that in. And so with them, I love them people asking me the question, what's in it for me? Because you opens the dialogue to say, here's where our company's going. So it's really a positive.
And it's a really powerful philosophy, because you can't argue. Everyone has their own self-interest. Everyone does, right? No matter, the most selfless people still have a self-interest. So to think about what are my employees thinking about when they think about what's in it for them? What are my customers, my suppliers, my mentors, my family members, my children? Like, everyone has that mindset. And when you kind of put yourself in their shoes, then you're able to speak their language and not come from your own agenda.
Absolutely. And you said that perfect there. Put yourself in there. It's the perspective value of giving credence and respect to their perspective. We talk about that in the value of respect. It's one of the foundational things of everything I teach in my programs and everything. And respect is so powerful because you can have very, very difficult conversations. Mm-hmm. Where if you come in respecting the other person, saying, think about this. Most people, we think of the other person wants to make the world a better place. They may not see a completely different eye, but in some way they want to make the world a better place and make their world a better place. So the problem is if we come in going, they're an idiot, they're stupid, they're way off, and you believe in what or believe in who. When you come in with that disrespect, there's really no chance for you to get back to a place of respect. But if you come in with respect, you have the opportunity to leave with respect. And even though you still may disagree with them, you still are able to have that level of respect for them. And that allows somebody to be heard, which really in any kind of disagreement or argument or discussion, that's what we really want is we want to be heard. And that when you can allow somebody that, it's, sky's the limit.
I completely agree. Well, I love this interview, Brad. I feel like there's so much value in this. I want to encourage everyone listening and watching this to go literally right now. If you haven't yet, which I think you're crazy if you haven't, go to Amazon, search for Eye of the Storm, Leading from Peace When All Hell is Breaking Loose. And also you can go to leadingfrompeace.com to pick up your copy, because not only are these philosophies in there and these high level thoughts, but also the actionable strategies. That's the one thing I love about you, Brad, is you and I are very, grounded in, okay, what's the strategy here? How do I get this done? How do I implement this immediately? And a lot of that's in the book. So is there a final thought, a final message that you want to leave for the entrepreneurs, the leaders that are watching this?
I think that's the thing is that, the worst thing we can do as a leader or an entrepreneur is not reach out, to feel that we have to solve every single problem there. And you'll see in the book, I have puked out all the different challenges and stuff that I've seen, that I've run into and created. And you're going to see yourself in so many of the chapters, because I was there and I was in the same position you are. And so that's really the power that comes in. And so reach out and really take a book like this that is going to be fun. Again, I'm not a big reader, so this is like 120 pages. You get through the thing. And like you said, we take it down to habits. So you actually, by the end of the book, will have exercises that you start today. And that's the fun part about it, is that you can live it right away. So yeah.
And you have, I want to make sure, I almost forgot this, but you have some really awesome bonuses for people as well. Where do they get that?
Absolutely. So when they go to leadingfrompeace.com, they'll actually get when they click on the link there, they'll get the bonuses. The other thing they can actually do is this. I have a Facebook group called Eye of the Storm. And really, it's what I did is I created a center, a group where we can actually share real life case studies. Your business and my business and all these different things. And I attached them to different universities. And so people can share and give ideas of how to help us with our business, just problems and questions. And that's a typically thing that sometimes we feel that as entrepreneurs and is that we're out on an island, like people to understand me. And this group is full of them, of people that have been right where you are, digging right where you are, swimming right where you are. So, yeah.
I love it, Brad. Well, I cannot wait for this book to come out. Actually, again, at the time of this interview, it is out. So
it's rolling, yeah.
Go pick it up right now. And thank you, brother, for just sharing your message, for being in alignment with your own values, because, one of my biggest things is spending time with people that are congruent and of integrity. And that's why I love how amazing it is every time you and I connect. So for those watching this, definitely go pick up Eye of the Storm on Amazon or leadingfrompeace.com right now. And if they want to learn more about you, Brad, where should they go?
You bet. Go to epitomycoach.com, and that's just kind of the website that talks about all the speaking and the consulting and the coaching that I do. And it's just, I love help. And if you have, you'll see there's a phone number on there. If you've got a question, like just a single problem you just want to talk through, call me. This is what I get to do anymore. I am so blessed. This is, when I sold my business, people said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Anything I want." And this is what I get to do. And I get to help and talk business and challenges and ideas. And so definitely reach out. I love talking business.
I love it, Brad. Thank you, brother.
Thank you guys so much.
All right.